कालीकूर्च समायुक्त माया कोडोपदेशतः प्रणवार्थ प्रबोधिन्यौ नमामि गुरुपादुके श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः नमः सदसे. So today we are having a very special guest with us on our channel, Miss Kalpalata Janardhan, and she has been Namaskaram, and she has been one of the youngest faces of the movement against Nityananda's corruption, and she is also a part of the family feud that is going on with whatever nonsense Nityananda has done, and it has been there in the public domain for such a long time. So, but more importantly, she has been a student of the Gurukul, and the primary purpose of this interview is to ask her Gurukul experience, if there are any positives to it, and if there are any negatives to it, and what are the things that has happened there. And let me warn you, this interview may not be for the faint hearted, because there have been episodes of child abuse that has happened in the Gurukul. And apologies to my viewers, the camera is not working on my end, so you will be happily seeing only Ms. Kalpalata today for the video. That being stated, Ma, can you introduce yourself with how long have you been associated with the Gurukul and other things?
Yeah. So welcome everybody. I'm Kalpalata Janardhan. I'm 15 years old. Being born in a Hindu family, like completely Orthodox Brahmin family. My father, who is very much wanting us to live that Hinduism throughout our life, was looking for schools that encourage Hinduism, and that's when he had passed through this Nityananda Gurukul in Bangalore, Bidadi. So we were I was like 7 years old, and my brother was like 6, and we were very young. And my father had put all 4 of us into the Nityananda Gurukul, wanting us to learn Hinduism and live it, like make the Vedas practical. So it's we were almost there for like 7 years. So from the year of 2013 till 2019.
Excellent. So we will start with the first question. What was the promise that was made? And as far as I am concerned, the Balasans of Nityananda are one of his biggest assets in terms of marketing, and the Gurukul kids are supposed to be the icons of whatever culture that he has developed. Whatever he is promoting, you are the key group of people who is going to be the epitome of the output. So what was it like? What were the promises made, and what made you join there?
So you see, as I can say, we all can say very clearly, Nityananda is someone who can very easily just make people faint to his words, right? And it's like thousands all over the globe who have very easily fallen for his words and who have got cheated, who are yet to realize that they're being cheated. So what I would say is we were one of those lucky families who got to realize that although there were so many promises made, such as we'll make you Siddha Purushas, we'll make you the representative of Hindus, we'll make you the best sannyasis in the world, and there were so many promises like that. I feel lucky that I could at least realize it soon enough before I turned a major over there. So I would say that initially when we, along with our family, went there to see and just understand, get to know what Gurukul is. So that's when we had the principles of Gurukul, which is Ma Advait and Rishi Advait, who came up with this thing that you 4 are really special, and Swamiji has been he's already previously told that you 4 will come, and all these kind of stories that they say literally for every family which comes. So so they said that we'll make use of the Purushas. This is the only Hindu place. This is the only place where we teach you the Vedas and the normal Macaulay education system. And there were so many things like this that they've told initially. And the first year, we joined in the month of May, right? So in the month of May, there was a summer camp, a 21-day program where we were engaged with many activities. Yeah, it was really fun, those 21 days, because it was like, how a normal summer camp is, right? So we were really interested in that, and then we decided to join the Gurukul. And that's when by the month of June, all four of us were in Gurukul. And the first promise that was made was to make us experts in yoga and all these. So initially, yes, we were doing very good yoga like every morning. They used to wake us up really early. See, if I tell you what the routine there was, it will be like in the morning 3:30 we would wake up and have a cold shower bath, and then we would do yoga and then puja and all this. It was only initially for the first few months that we had a proper routine, a proper schedule that we followed, right? After that, it was never a proper schedule. It was just continuously changing. Like even I remember I had put so many times the schedule for Gurukul. All it was more than like some 300 to 400 kids in the beginning. Just within a few months, it had already reduced to 200, and then it was just like some 170 something. This is in the year of 2013, 2014. And very soon kids were starting to go and come, and that's how it was happening continuously in Gurukul. So coming to the routine, there were continuous changes in the schedule. There were continuous, different things coming up, and the whole thing's going away. And it was never a proper, organized, arranged school. We were told that we would be learning all the Vedas and how a Brahmana should be and all these things. But to be honest, we never learned the Vedas the way it was supposed to be learned. They were teaching us a few mantras because obviously they had to show that they were Hindus. So they were teaching us a few mantras, and we did learn a lot of mantras. Like even now, I remember many of the mantras. And that's where I felt. I was thinking that, oh wow, I'm learning so much, But at the end of the day, like when anybody that takes the time to just look back at what they have really achieved or what they've really done, it would be like 0. If I have to say from 1 to 10 how much I feel I've been cheated, I would say 10, right? Because every time they say, you guys have mastered this learning, you've mastered yoga, you've mastered the pole yoga, the rope yoga, and all these. And when I just look back, it's like, compared to what an expert is, not even an expert, like one who has learned, like one who has passed and who's a certified yoga teacher, or one who's a certified puja acharya and all these things. When we compare ourselves to that person, it's nothing for what we have learned there. But just that continuous brainwash that they do, like literally every single day, saying, come on, nobody in the world gets to learn all this. It's only you guys who learn all this. Especially because many of them are young kids there. Like so easily, they just feed in all those ideas that only we get to learn all these. And I was one of those who believed it like to the core. So I was thinking that, this is the only place where everybody together are being taught to do rope and pole yoga. And it was only later that I realized people outside are, like, there are thousands outside who even do this pole and rope yoga and who are much more expert than us. So there are many things like this if we have to talk about.
Yes. So basically, it is a place of spirituality, and the spiritual leader of the organization is Nityananda. So my basic question here is, as far as the spirituality is concerned, I'm not speaking about Vedas or mantras or anything like that, but as far as the spirituality is concerned, were you force-fed bhakti towards Nityananda, and what was that process? Like projecting him as the god?
Yeah. So my dad, because we have my parents, they had their family guru, right? And he had passed away apparently when I was young. So he was our guru was not able to initiate us, and that's when my father, really wanted us to get our guru. So our parents, since a very young age, they've always been telling us about Guru Bhakti. And before even going to ashram, we were always do puja every day and then pray to God every day. So we do all those as a regular thing. So once we went there, it was easy for all four of us to adopt that. So we were only like okay, he's our guru, and whatever he says, we must do it. It will happen to us. So that was all for our basic cognition. So like since the very beginning, as far as I remember, at least we were told that he is an incarnation. He is the God. He's the only God. You can literally every single time you'll have to tell his name. Like you see, even when we talk, you might even have seen my previous videos. Every time I start the video, I say the Sadguru Vandaram, which has Nityananda's name in it, and then I say Nityanandam, and then only I begin talking. So, anytime we talk, we say Nityanandam. Anytime we chant any mantra, even if it's a Veda mantra, it is edited with his name. Like the Rudram, we have Nityananda in it. So many mantras I can say there is the word Nityananda. So continuously we are being put with that cognition, that idea. We are being fed the belief that Nityananda is the only God, and you must continuously rethink of him, talk about him, and do all this. This is rather like one of the cheapest way of mind washing and trying to get that person under your control. It would because it's like so many of us there, we would only think, see, this is Guru Bhakti. The more you tell his name, the more you're going to get enlightened. The more you talk about him, the more enriched you're going to become. So all these kind of crazy ideas that we had was continuously telling us, it's okay, it's fine, it's good for you, so do it. So we kept on following whatever they said. Like every morning we had to do the Pada Puja and Shiva Puja. Everybody had to offer it to, we say, we all have to offer it to Swamiji's feet, right? So all of us did puja to Nityananda's feet, and right after that we'll have to listen to his satsang. To be honest, so many would be like just dozing off and sleeping there, yet we did consider something that he said. Okay, so continuously there are these kind of ideas and thought currents that are being fed into us. But for us, spirituality was reaching Nityananda. Like back then when I was at the ashram, for me, my spiritual attainment would be, if I am with Swamiji, how would it be? That is only the ultimate gift. And if I am serving Swamiji, wow, I'll be the most grateful person ever. So I literally even guess I still have those books where I've written, I want to serve you and all these kind of things. So this is the cognition that literally everybody there has. That the ultimate goal and the spiritual attainment is nothing but to serve Swamiji, to serve Nityananda. And we, like, especially after he went to Kailas, Ecuador, which he calls and which he claims to be Kailasa. So we would think if you're not there, then that something that is seriously wrong within us. So we'll have to sit and do all this process called completion and self-control, self-alignment and all these. And then we would, we would literally be like so depressed. Oh my God, we're not with Swamiji.
One moment here.
There's something seriously wrong.
I'm sorry to interrupt. One moment here. So
Yeah,
he went to Kailasha because of various other legal reasons that he was not able to continue in India. But what do you mean when you say that you were depressed? See, being depressed because your guru is away from you is one thing. But were you told that you were the reason for that? Anything that is wrong with you is the reason why Swamiji is not with us? Were those kinds of statements made?
Well, you see, anytime anything happens in the ashram, even if it's a normal failure in a program or anything, we, the Gurukul kids, would be told that you need to hold a space for it. You need to create a space for it, right? So if how we were made to think that is that the space that you are holding is a cause for everything that happens. So with that, like, there is something like this in the real Vedas and everything, but how they manipulate it here is the important thing. This based on this cognition, right, they start developing other thoughts in us. So for example, when he had to leave Kailasa, we were said that anti-Hindu elements were attacking him in the ashram, and so he had to flee. I mean, they didn't utter the word flee, but they said that Swamiji had no other choice, and so he had to move away immediately so that you guys in the ashram won't get affected. And there was like so many stories like this. So they said that he had lots of love for Gurukul children. He did not want us to get affected, so he did not inform anybody, and he left early in the morning. And after some time, all of us gathered for a meeting, and then we were said that we are not being I don't remember exactly the words he said, but this was literally what they meant. It was more than like 2 hour long meeting. So they were saying, see, only because all of us are not integrated, we are not responsible enough. That is why Swamiji had to leave. If alone we were there to stand up for him and protect him, why would he have to get scared of the anti-Hindu forces? Why would he have to get affected by them? We should be there for him. We should enrich him. And this is how the thing started. So they started building it up to saying, if whoever is responsible, whoever is being integrated to Swamiji will get to be with him in Kailasa. And then, so we all had to take on some projects and then do whatever he says, somehow get his attention, in the sense, somehow make him call us to something. So whoever does that would be starting to how to say, they would be like the chosen few who can go to Kailasa. You can see even in many of Nityananda's videos called satsangs, where he says those who were manifest powers will be taken to Kailasa. Those who take more responsibilities and start enriching will come along with me to Kailasa. So this is how, from one cognition, just by saying you being with Swamiji is the ultimate thing, and your space matters for everything that happens, they start building on thoughts like this, and somehow just make us totally blind, like literally blindly follow whatever they say.
Okay, so basically, children, you are right now 15 years old. By that time, I think you should be 13 or 14. Okay, 12, 13, 14. I think you joined at the age of 11. Am I correct?
No, I joined at the age of 9.
Okay, 9, 10, 11, 12. Maximum 4 years to 5 years you were there. So a 9-year-old child to a 12, 13-year-old children. So these people were not only told that they are responsible for the attacks that are happening somehow on the psychic plane, on the energy plane, somehow, somewhere, like you are responsible for that. And it is your problem to resolve that. And it is your problem to get ingrained to him. It is your problem to get his attention. And when you get his attention, you are being told that you have achieved something really great and you are being celebrated. Yes, that is the gist of it, right?
Yes.
Oh my God. So this is such horrible levels of manipulation, that too with children. And this is a punishable offense, criminal offense, what they are doing there. So
see, it's not just that, at least if it is some kind of space changing in you or some spiritual attainment, I can understand, but this is just nothing. You get to be called by Swamiji, then you're great. You get the chance to work with him, then you're great. See how a guru and a disciple works totally different. Like we have heard so many stories from the Vedas, from the Puranas, but it's what he does here is nothing like those. Although in his satsang he claims all my Gurukul kids are like Subramanya and Ganesha, I'm Shiva and they're my sons and daughters. And he says he bluffs about all these in satsangs, but the reality that happens there is literally like we have to do what he says. If we do what he says, if we achieve something great by getting his attention, then we are called as responsible persons, as somebody who has achieved, somebody who's in completion, somebody who is really close to Swamiji. Then we feel fulfilled. Like even when I was there, I used to feel that when Swamiji called me, I'll be like, wow, Swamiji's calling me, wow, he knows me, wow. Like, all these feelings start coming up, right? And that's how it is there for each and every kid, each and every person, even if it's an adult, even if it's the youngest person. That's literally the cognition that everybody has. We always are like, somehow forced or made to believe that Nityananda has so much of love towards us that any mistakes we do, he will just be like, okay, that's no problem, I'll give you another chance. And although we see right in front of our eyes, he'll be like just like firing people like so badly. And I tell you, I've all the rubbish words I've never heard in Tamil and in English, I've heard from his mouth. But yet, I never get a doubt why would Swamiji use all these words. It's only that, oh, this is Swamiji's training. Wow, look how he's training each and every kid. Like you get the point, right? At one point, we see Swamiji has so much of love and so much of care for all his kids and all the ashramates. But on the other side, right in front of our eyes, we have seen him, the way he asks people to beat up each other, the way he has, like, just he'll like blast them, fire them, and the person would be crying. This is not what happens between a guru and a disciple. But at that moment, when you're inside the ashram, you would only take it as a process of training. You would only think, wow, Swamiji is like sculpting you to become a masterpiece. So that's how full each and everyone there are.
Okay, normally in a learning atmosphere, let us say a school, okay, the gratification of the students is based on their talent. For example, if a student is getting first prize in sports, then that person is feeling elated. He is gratified as a good sportsman.
Yeah.
And if he is getting first rank or second rank, obviously everybody will appreciate. But here, what is the appreciation, what is the gratification, and what is the elation is the connection with that single person. Whether you are a dumb kid or you are a smart kid, that actually does not matter. If you are doing something that he is noticing, then you are considered by even your own peers that you are better than them. Somehow you got his attention. And now, speaking of that,
Yeah.
I would like to ask a question. When you say activities to get his attention, what sort of activities were you doing? Does this involve marketing and promotion for Nityananda?
Yeah, like you see here, I have to bring in one of the main key concepts that Nityananda uses for his own promotion, commercializing his Sangha. So in the year of 2015 or 2014 end, he introduced this thing called power manifestation and third eye activation. So you see, before that entire power manifestation came into our thing, we were focused on yoga and learning the mantras and all. And apart from which they gave us like so-called education. We'll come to that education part later on. So we were engaged in activities like going to temple, doing rituals, and even in each of those rituals, it was only like continuously chanting his name and everything. And we would worship his deity and also. Temple rituals, yoga, and learning the mantras and our normal studies. These were literally the major activities that we had before this power manifestation came in. So once Nityananda introduced the science of power manifestation, and a few of us were actually able to do it. Like you see, he did this thing called third eye activation. I cannot say the powers are not true. I will say 100% the powers, the signs of the Shaktis are true. But the way Nityananda used it and how he claimed masses of people doing it, that was totally false. Like I was one of those there who experienced this power of third eye awakening, and I would say I could really start seeing using my third eye. I have seen, like, I can just like look into the body and find out what problem and all these. Like I have really experienced it a few times, and also my sisters, my siblings have also experienced it, and a lot have actually some kind of little experience they have. But once he started just because one person sees one letter, he's like, oh god, yeah, they started seeing. And then that's when he started using that as the key concept to start attracting more people. So he started saying in his satsang, in his speeches, that I have awakened so many thousands of people's third eye, and they all are able to read, they all are able to do body scanning and all these. So that's when, many kids, those who are in the Gurukul, those who come for programs, many kids started cheating. Like they don't do it really. Like they pick through the eye band to read blindfolded, or they just make some random guesses. And always it's if 2 kids read and Nityananda is 20 kids have read. If just a few of us do a little bit correct, like some 40% right. He's like, my kids are 100% right. And you can see many of his satsangs where he says, I have awakened 20,000 kids third eye, I have awakened 10,000 kids third eye, and blah, blah, blah. But actual thing that happens there is only a very few who even experience it really. And
Yes.
apart from that, the rest are only like, cheating and not doing it authentically.
Okay.
So once this thing came in, we were like completely engaged into it. Like we literally spent days together sitting and having to do it 100% right. And like no food, no water till then, no going to bathroom. You'll have to sit right there and put on the blindfold and read. So all these started happening in the year of 2015. And that's when kids were like forced to do power manifestation and they started cheating. And he started using this thing to make people outside start believing that all this power manifestation happens. And that's when people outside started getting attracted. Like if you see, the count of the people coming to the program increased after 2015.
Yes. Here, I would like to clarify one thing to the viewers. That is, the Siddhis, he may call it Shaktis, but I never agree with that term because there is no Pramana for
Yeah.
Shaktis. And Siddhis are actually looked upon as something that must be avoided at all costs. Even if some Siddhis are happening to you, you just need to let it happen, cross it and go. Otherwise, it will severely impediment your spiritual growth. This is one thing that all the Sampradayas, including the Tantrika Sampradayas, agree. The Tantric Sampradayas have Siddhis as their markers, but they also agree to one thing, that is the Siddhi is just a marker and you should not use it. So actively using the Siddhis is one thing. Second thing is, these Siddhis may happen to any person with sufficient sadhana, with sufficient good karma, with sufficient past life sadhana. If you are having that, it may happen to you. There are so many children who are prodigies. Those are all Siddhis. Like we see children who are reciting, any Tirukural, you just give the first word of a Tirukural, they will be able to say that, they will be able to do 13, 14 digits mathematics in their mind. All these things are
Yeah.
inborn Siddhis. Like that, some children naturally have those Siddhis, especially from spiritually inclined families like yours. Probably, I think you are one of the first children to manifest the so-called Shaktis or Siddhis in the
Yeah. Me and my sister were very much into it, and Nityananda literally used this as his tools and made us continuously meet like very important people, industrialists, businessmen, those who are rich. And literally we would be given targets like, get 3 lakhs from that person, get this land from that person. You must make them uh, give me like 1 crore, 2 crore. So it's crazy. We'll be given like a database where it will be with people's name and then their phone numbers and then their email IDs. So what we'll have to do, it's like all the kids and then group of adults who will sit there and make calls, right? So we'll have to sit and like call each and every number and tell them, wow, Swamiji is so great. You know what? Swamiji healed so many people and Swamiji has given me all these powers. And then we'll have to somehow convince them, make them do Pada Puja to Swamiji, and then make them donate 3 lakhs and then 1 crore and then 8 crores. So there are literally targets like this. I can actually name it. So it's called first Pada Puja, and then we'll have to make them do a Homa. Everything is paid, okay? And then we'll have to make them attend an inner awakening program, a 21-day program, which is literally not even worth even $50, but we'll have to pay like 5 lakhs for it. Sorry, 7 lakhs. Yeah, 7 lakhs for it. And then after attending this 21-day program, we'll have to make them become an SJP Yajaman, which is like he has the stupid concept that he's making a Sarvijna Pita where anybody can learn the Vedas and Agamas. And so we'll have to make people donate for it. So once they donate, they become, we call them a Sarvijna Pita Yajaman. Just in short, SJP Yajaman. So we'll have to make them an SJP. And then there's this next level where we'll have to make them a Karta, which is make them donate to 8 crores. And you won't believe me, it's not just Indians, right? It's even from the US, even from Europe. It's like from all over the world. And there's a huge amount of money that comes in. Literally, I can say that I have cost 4 people for SJP. I have cost more than 12 people for the inner awakening. I've cost more than, I don't know how many exact count. Like every time I'll have to call and make them do Pada Puja and Homa. And using all these powers, especially like me and my sister, we've gone and met so many people. You can even see our Facebook post previously where we've shared every time, like, we do demo and all this, like show the powers to others. So we've met so many VIPs, made them give money, made them donate, all in the name of Nityananda is reviving Hinduism. He's building a golden temple. And every time there's also this new project that comes up. Like, so once there was this when Nityananda claimed he was going to make a huge statue of Sadashiva with 25 heads and 50 hands. That never really happened, but thousands of people donated for it, and nobody knows what happens to all that money. Until today, the temple is never built, but
One small note here. I'm sorry to interrupt, but this is something very, very
yeah, no
important.
problem.
This 25 heads huge Sadashiva statue that actually started exactly the same time as the Adiyogi campaign is starting in Isha. So so it was like just a competitor ploy, okay, that he also wanted to do something similar, but that pathetically failed because of one simple reason, that is the straightforward methods that are being used by other organizations, and the methods that he is using are different. First thing. Second thing is his entire aim is to squirrel away money, hoard away money, and literally not do anything towards the society, towards Hinduism, or towards spirituality. Let me say that outright here. And that is exactly what you are saying. You do not know what happened to all of the money. Obviously, this is an edited piece which is being inserted into the video. In the Zoom call, due to some reason, my video did not work. So I am inserting this as the end piece to this part of the video. There will be 2 more parts to this video, and if anybody is having any questions to ask to Kalpalata regarding anything, so far as it is a decent question, please ask that in the comment section, and we will be having repeat interviews with her wherein these questions will be asked and answered. First thing. Second thing is, if anybody wants to ask the questions directly, they will be given an opportunity to do so via Zoom or Google Meeting in the future, and we will be posting those videos as well. So it is your choice. It is your choice whether to post questions. I'm having a very bad cold, I'm sorry. It is your choice whether to post questions or to ask questions. If you want, you can make a request in the comment section, and you can personally contact me, or I think you have my number, or on my Facebook Messenger. So you can contact me if you want to have interviews with her. So this is the offer that is open to everybody. Thank you so much. तच्चं योरा वृणीमहे गातुं यज्ञाय गातुं यज्ञपतये दैवी स्वस्तिरस्तुनः स्वस्तिर्मानुषेभ्यः ऊर्ध्वं जिगातु वेषजं शन्नो अस्तु द्विपते सञ्चतुष्पते। ओम शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। नमः सदसे।